Hello, this is a part of a multi-part series on Patrick Henry, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, and this particular webinar is on 15 principles of liberty and leadership. If you've not already listened to the whole Give Me Liberty or Death speech, I would invite you to do so because we'll quickly move through these 15 principles using excerpts of the speech, and it will be most meaningful to you if you've already heard the speech in total. So let's pull out these principles now. I'll highlight in blue some pieces of paragraphs as we make these applications. Patrick Henry said this, "For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery." So leadership principle number 1 is to have an honest assessment of their circumstances. This is what leaders and active citizens need to do. They need to assess their circumstances well so that they will begin to be able to formulate an action plan. A second leadership principle. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. A second principle is that leaders have a responsibility to God and country and future generations. In society today, we don't plan beyond the next week, let alone the next month, year, or think of future generations. But people from this time period that were establishing the principles of freedom and liberty in our country thought in those terms. A third leadership principle, should I keep back my opinions at such a time through fear of giving offense? Leaders need to express their concerns without fear of giving offense to others. In our sensitive and delicate society today, no one can no longer speak their mind or speak out the truth because of political correctness. If we're to find our way through the difficult challenges we face as a country, we need to be able to express our concerns without fear of offending someone else. A fourth leadership principle, Patrick Henry says this, "I should consider myself as guilty of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty toward the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings." Leaders revere God above all other things. I don't know what your personal faith perspective is, but if you're not governed by the fact that there's an outside force and moral power beyond yourself, all you have is yourself as a reference point. Belief in God and reverence for God gives you the moral power and courage to lead people, groups of people, toward more noble things. A fifth principle is this, that leaders need to deal with reality rather than fantasy. Patrick Henry said this, "It's natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We're apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren. That can be so deceptive, and we can cover our ears and eyes to reality. So leaders need to deal with reality rather than fantasy." Sixthly, leaders need to not fear the truth, but seek it out. Henry says, "For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth and know the worst and to provide for it." Knowing the truth allows you to plan a direction and a course to take. A seventh leadership principle is this, to know history and apply it. Henry says, "I know of no way of judging the future but by the past." Leaders that are able to lead multi-generationally not only have a familiarity with their own personal history, but they have a familiarity with their company history, their city history, and their national history, and they're able to apply those lessons of history into the future, which makes great leaders great. An eighth leadership principle is that actions speak louder than words. Patrick Henry asks this, "Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations." In other words, when assessing the leadership of others, you cannot listen to a politician or other leaders' words. You need to look at their actions, because their actions really speak to what their motivations are and what they're about. Then there's this whole section of Patrick Henry's speech where he smatters questions upon his audience. All these in rose color are questions that he posed over and over and over again in his Liberty or Death speech, which gets us to leadership principle number 9, asking the right questions gets to the heart of the matter. If you can become a good question asker, you'll also become a good problem solver. And problem solvers will always be able to find work because organizations, governments, and society always has problems to solve. A 10th leadership principle is this, Know the things that are worth fighting for and fight for them. Patrick Henry says, we must fight. I repeat it, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that's left to us. There are some things that are truly worth making that level of effort for. Leadership principle number 11. Look at the resources that God has provided for you. If we make a proper use of the means which the God of nature hath placed in our power, 3 millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty are invincible. What is your life situation that you face where God has planted resources all around you, whether it be your gifts, abilities, and talents, or others that have resources, that those are things that He's provided for you to lead forward? A 12th leadership principle is this. Leaders know if they are trying to follow God's will, He will work on their behalf in seen and unseen ways. Patrick Henry says this, there is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations and will raise up friends. There is a larger being that has a love and concern for humankind that leads and guides in ways that are unseen and don't always make sense when we're in the midst of our circumstances. The 13th leadership principle is this. A leader is vigilant, active, and brave. And I can't say it more clearly than what Patrick Henry says it on this screen with these words. The battle serves not to the strong alone. It's to the vigilant, the active, and the brave. A 14th principle is that leaders must face difficult circumstances that they did not ask for or create. Every generation has circumstances that they did not ask for, both in individual lives and families, situations, and society. And so true leaders step into that difficulty and they lead in circumstances that they did not ask for or create. And then lastly, leaders know that some things are worth dying for. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Find a cause that you believe in, a cause that will outlive you, a cause that will be to the betterment of humankind, a cause that will provide freedom and liberty to untold millions in our own nation or around the world, and find those causes and make those things worth dying for. My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.